All right. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for taking time out of your busy schedules to join the call today. As always, and I mean this sincerely, it's your participation, your insight, your wisdom that makes this call the best. So please be prepared to share and be involved in the call, and we'll have a great conversation. We'll start with quick introductions, and then we'll do some program wins. I'd like to introduce a new topic, and then we'll close out with our round-robin discussion statements. All right, so today for the introductions, just your name, territory, tenure with TAB, and then if you could share with us a short, brief networking success story. So when have you done some networking that actually produced some positive result or outcome? Doesn't necessarily need to be a membership outcome, but anything that you feel would be a successful networking situation. So why don't we start with Rick?
All right. My name's Rick Powell. I'm in the greater Chattanooga, Tennessee area, which includes some of North Georgia. And I've been with TAB for, I guess, today would be 3 years, come to think of it. Short, brief networking success story. I guess the most recent member came to me from I belong to BNI. I go every week to BNI. But somebody that had visited my BNI group a couple times and had talked around and stuff introduced me to, or actually contacted me and wanted to know if I would be willing to sit down over lunch with him and a friend of his that owns 2 retail stores and talk a little bit about what I do because he had the need. And by the end of the lunch, the conversation went great, and he signed up as a member, and he is my newest member. So that's as fast as I know how to say it.
That's awesome, and definitely a success story. Cool. Mm-hmm. It's good to know that BNI actually works every now and then.
Mm-hmm. No better way to get a referral than in person with the 3 of us.
Yep, absolutely. Cool. How about you, Tanya?
Hi, I'm Tanya Scott. I am the owner of TAB San Diego, and I've been a member of TAB or part of TAB for about 1.5 years now. And let's see, networking success story. I go with the latest one. I actually had met a financial advisor. I've known this financial advisor for a while, and he's now getting into exit planning and had reached back out to me to connect because that's my area of expertise. And we were talking about people we knew, and I put together a lunch to meet one of his associates, which is an estate attorney, and I brought an M&A attorney to the lunch. And Justin, the state attorney, and I hit it off really well. He'd been a member of Vistage, and all the things he didn't like about Vistage were the things that he liked about TAB. So that was kind of interesting. But we went ahead and proceeded to meet and separately on our own just this week. And he referred a client to me that I started working with yesterday. So that was through my CPA practice, and then he and I are continuing to talk on with regard to him maybe becoming a member of TAB. So it's kind of a good double-edged sword in that he's referring work to me for my CPA practice as well as maybe a potential member. So anyway, that's the latest and greatest.
That's a good one. It's always good to reach out into our circle of influence and keep looking for connection opportunities through that. Well done. How about you, John?
John Crandall. I've been a TAB owner since May of this year. I have TAB North Texas, which is the North Dallas, Frisco, Plano area, and a networking success story. I'd say I haven't gotten a member yet through networking, but one of the very first networking things that I went to, working with just having a conversation with a guy who owns a technology help desk, support kind of company, and in a 20-minute conversation just walked through his development process for his business and gave him like 3 or 4 different options of things that he could do and how to think about it more strategically. And since then, I didn't realize he's very, very involved in the chamber, and it was very good from a reputation standpoint with the credibility with him, and then how he's passed it on and connected me to other people. So that's been a success for me.
Excellent. Awesome. Yeah, I think that definitely a success. Not all success has to end in membership. All right, David, how about you?
Hey, so this is David Krish. I'm in Greenville, South Carolina, which is kind of the eastern section of the state. And I have had my tab business for 6 years. And let's see, and my networking success story, sure, yeah, kind of along the lines of, doesn't necessarily mean it results in membership, is I was just invited to a kind of an exclusive networking meeting we have a European Chamber of Commerce group here in Greenville. We've gotten a lot of European and just foreign businesses set up around here. And so they formed this, and I was invited to a special meeting on Monday through another network partner. I struck up a conversation with the managing director. They're holding a meeting actually this evening, another networking meeting around tariffs. So there's going to be a pretty good group of local manufacturers, I would think, and distributors going to that. And I had hesitated paying the fee to come to the meeting. And she said, after our conversation, no problem. I'd love to have you come as a guest. And so I'll be at the meeting this evening as a result of that. So there you go. It's kind of a quick little success story, right?
Absolutely. Definitely a success. And it's one of those connections. You just never know where that could lead and how it might provide opportunity for you going forward.
Exactly.
Yep. Well, my name is Ben Keller. I coach TAB business owners in North America. I have members in this program from Mexico all the way up through Canada, from the East Coast all the way out to Hawaii. I have a networking success story. It's actually another BNI story. So I still have one private coaching client that I maintain from my previous practice. And that actually came to me through a BNI connection, somebody that I had not really spent a lot of time with, but we had a couple of one-on-ones, and just through the process of sharing about my coaching philosophy and practice, and continually reminding my BNI group what my why was, and helping them connect there more than with what I did, she introduced me to this new business owner. She was an entrepreneur who happened to be the daughter of her significant other. And so we met probably over 2.5 years ago, and have been going strong ever since. And she continues to seek me out for coaching. And I've actually tried to fire her a couple of times just from a time perspective, but it's very validating to hear when you're trying to end that kind of a relationship, as sometimes it's appropriate to do when they start reminding you of everything that you've done to help them, and why they really are committed to doing whatever they have to do to keep the coaching relationship going. So that's been very positive for me, and a great experience, and just a good way for me to keep my toes in the real world of coaching other business owners outside of the TAB network. So networking does work, BNI does work. It's just a matter of being consistent and finding the right groups to be a part of. All right, very good. Thanks everybody for sharing. I think it's very encouraging to hear that, even though I hear a lot of times that networking doesn't work, we just shared 5 examples of how networking can work to help you grow your business. So that's definitely something to keep in your marketing mix. So let's transition quickly, and if anybody has any program or business wins or challenges that they're facing with their TAB business, specifically around business development or retention, membership acquisition, any of that kind of thing. Please celebrate the wins and allow us the opportunity to help with any challenges you're facing.
I have one that is I'm offering to scholarship a guy in for 3 months. His business is in a crunch place for cash right now. He's got about 40 employees, and he had to let some folks go a few weeks ago, but he's supposed to get a cash infusion in January. And so I talked to him earlier in the week and offered it to him, and he was really thankful, but he said, now, before you really offer this to me, let me tell you that, this could go sideways. I may not be able to do anything different in January. I said, well, I'm willing to, bet on you and your business and where you're going. And let's just revisit it in January, and hopefully the things that we're doing between now and then really give you some perspective that makes a difference in how your business runs. And so he was really appreciative, but, tried to give me the full information on his business may not recover. Okay, still in with you. So that's a new one for me.
That's awesome. I really like that. And to me, John, that's one of the best ways to really establish trust very early in a relationship, when you make that commitment to help them, even knowing that there might be some risk involved in doing that. Yeah,
I'm hoping that it works out. Well, and I just look at it as time well spent for him and his employees. He'll have a better chance of getting through his difficult situation with TAB than on his own.
Mm-hmm. Very good. Excellent. That is definitely a good win and a good use of that scholarshiping strategy. Very good. Congratulations. Anybody have any follow-up questions or comments for John? All right. How about any other wins or challenges? Okay. Silence means nothing, so we'll move forward.
Well, I'll share one.
All right, go for it.
So we've been trying to, build out our first board, and we're having a business owner roundtable on the 14th of November, and we've got 5 people scheduled to come right now, and 3 of them are my invitations, and some of these, 2 of them are new connections, but one in particular is from somebody I've known for a long time and worked with for a long time. And last year when we launched, he was interested, but it just wasn't the right time for a variety of reasons. But I don't know. I'm just feeling really positive about the group we've got coming to the round table, and people are excited and seem to be interested and open. They're, I've got not discovery meetings, but RFAs, which Ben knows I'm calling them ninja RFAs or ninja 22Qs, because they think they're just working on getting something to present at an issue to present, but I'm going to take them through that process, and I don't know. I guess I'm feeling really optimistic about it. So I'm going to call that a win, even though I don't have anybody signed up yet. I mean, signed up as a member, but they are coming to the round table.
I agree. Definitely a win, and I'm really excited to hear how optimistic you're feeling about this going into the event. I think that just that in and of itself will help you have a much more successful event. Anybody have any questions for Tanya, or words of wisdom, or anything that you'd like to share from your past experiences, or to help her better prepare?
Explain again, Tanya, how many people you've got signed up right now?
5. And we're
5.
working on a few others, yeah.
Of course, yeah. Good. And obviously you've got, because that's another 2 weeks, right?
Yep.
2 weeks from yesterday.
Exactly.
So yeah, you've got a process for what is your process? Let me ask that question. What is your process for keeping them engaged and committed to the 14th?
Well, like I said, I'm having meetings with them, or we are having the we're calling it an issue preparation meeting, one-on-one, but it's really going through the 22Q process to help them suss out the thing. I've got scheduled follow-up, confirmations with them, 2 days before, and, so any other suggestions?
Well, yeah, no, that was it. I was just kind of wondering what, if I wasn't sure if you had already had those meetings, but those are coming up in between now and then.
Right. Yeah. All these folks have come from we've been able to have good discovery meetings, and then, Ben has been coaching with me on, sometimes we have to change he pointed out, sometimes I have to change my, be nimble, right? And change to, what is the objective? Because we did have business owners last month, and because we were focused more on the 22 key, trying to fill up the. So we're trying to get to both results, right? 22Q and attending the roundtable and signing up. And yesterday Ben pointed out to me that part of it is also, if we do the 22Q and they're ready to sign up, go ahead and sign them up right then. Don't just wait for the roundtable to happen to make that close if I can. So we'll see.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, one of the things.
Yeah, so you've already had discovery meetings with these folks too?
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, for sure. Go right for that close, since you've got that 22Q meeting with them. Find that pain, right?
Right. Exactly.
And have everything filled out and ready to go right at the meeting, and then are you doing any other email campaigns, or do you have a host or somebody to try to fill additional seats?
No.
So that might be my, suggestion, is to just because the worst case scenario is you have too many people at the meeting, right? But, because what happens if you have these 5 meetings and you close 2 of them, and, well, they'll probably come to the meeting anyway, but, or they just say, you know what, I'm looking forward to my board meeting in such and such a week, and, and you don't have, and now you got 3 people coming, and one of them doesn't show, and you got 2 people. I'm just kind of not to be negative nanny, but to be more of a, because I've been there, I've done that. You know what I mean?
I do know what you mean.
Many of us have.
Yeah, this isn't my first business owner roundtable, so it's yeah, I definitely know what you mean. So
yeah, I generate some activity myself, just whether it's through LinkedIn, your LinkedIn connections, and just kind of doing a LinkedIn blast, if you will, and or email blast, direct mail, to just continue to try to fill the seats and gain interest, since you've got it scheduled for the 14th. Like I said, the worst case scenario, and I don't know of many people that have had that experience of having too many people attend their sample board meeting.
Mhm. Okay.
Well, one of the things we talked about was if they're ready to sign, or even if they're not ready to sign but still committed to attending the workshop, is to go ahead and get the membership application filled out, making sure that they understand that the last step in the process toward membership is the attending the sample board, so that you get that experience. And after that meeting, we expect a decision, right? We're going to agree together how to move forward. So let's just go ahead and get the paperwork filled out. That way, when you're ready to move forward, I'll just submit the paperwork. If you decide for whatever reason that it's not a good fit, then I'll just give it back to you. But then we don't have to worry about that next step. And again, we're trying to secure their commitment to the board, to the sample board. We're also trying to keep them moving forward in that membership decision process. And even if they're ready to go, we'll fill out the membership application. We'll get them enrolled, and as you kind of hinted at, David, they still come to the meeting, still come to the sample board, still participate. It'll help you prepare for the first board meeting, and keep them moving forward, keep them engaged.
Right.
Excellent. Well, of course, Tanya, keep us updated on the progress toward that meeting, as well as how it goes and the response that you get from the participants.
Will do. Thanks.
Awesome. Yep. Any other wins or challenges before we move forward? All right. Today I wanted to kind of introduce a new topic. Last time we met, we talked about the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People from Stephen Covey's work. I don't know if you know this, but Stephen Covey, one of his sons, he offered the full resources of his organization to his son to develop whatever product he wanted. And Stephen M.R. Covey came up with The Speed of Trust and put together a book along with some training materials, and now markets this as its own product and is very successful. I was actually introduced to Speed of Trust about 10 years ago, and in the organization that I was working with, this was actually one of the most effective tools that we used in helping our executive leadership team kind of come together and understand the value and benefit that a high trust organization can have. So, the basic concept with the Speed of Trust is that trust is a combination of speed and cost. And what that really means is that a low trust organization usually moves at a much slower pace. Decisions take longer. There's more pushback. There's less buy-in. And as a result, cost goes up because we're not able to move as quickly. And it could be real cost. It could be a loss of opportunity cost. There's lots of things that you can be looking at that could impact the bottom line when it comes to how quickly or aggressively a company is able to make decisions. In a high trust organization, obviously speed of decision making is increased, buy-in is increased, support from the organization, the leadership team, as well as the other employees is increased, and through that costs go down through increase in revenue, increase in market share, but mostly in the ability to improve and and drive the organization forward effectively, because you're not investing as much time, energy, and capital in gaining buy-in. You're actually expending that in moving the organization forward. So that's the basic premise of the Speed of Trust. So, as you think about trust in an organization, there are two impacts that trust has. So these are either a trust tax, which in a low trust organization, obviously there's an economic component to that lack of trust and how it affects business, but there's also an impact to the business relationships, the interactions among the leadership in the organization, as well as the employees, in the way that the organization communicates and the way decisions are made, and really in every dimension of life for that business as well as the executive. So low trust organization experience this tax trust, which really negatively impacts every place in the organization. On the contrast, a trust dividend in a high trust organization, they experience also some very real and quantifiable benefits from being in that incredibly high environment. So again, relationships are more positive and healthy. Even conflict is managed in a more healthy manner. the interactions are more productive, the communication is more complete and thorough from top to bottom. Decisions are made in a positive manner with good feedback and quickly, and it just really benefits the organization in every way. One of the best visuals that I've ever had of trust and the effect of trust is to think of trust as a bank account. You know, with a bank account, you add to that by making deposits, which cause the account to grow. Whenever you need to take money out, it's a withdrawal, and the result of the account is that the balance diminishes. It's much like trust. When you do things intentionally to build trust, it's a deposit into that trust account, and it causes the account to grow, and the relationship as well as the organization benefit from that deposit. However, when you do things that break trust or diminish trust in the organization or in a relationship, it causes there to be a loss, and that withdrawal causes the account to diminish. One thing to recognize is that deposits and withdrawals do not always have an equal impact. So I can do something to benefit the trust in a relationship or in an organization, and it might be a small deposit. Whereas I can do a minor thing that is a withdrawal from that trust account, but could have significant impact in the way that the relationships move forward, in the view that others have of you, and the trust that they give to you, and the level of the way that you interact with other people. So small withdrawals can actually have a significant impact on the overall trust account. And really the key here is keeping that trust balance as positive as possible, because when there are too many withdrawals, just like with your bank account, the account is bankrupt, zero balance, and trust is lost. And I think we all can relate to those times when maybe we've been in a situation where there is a low trust relationship, and we can acknowledge that when a relationship is bankrupt in the trust department, it's really, really difficult to begin to reestablish a positive account with that relationship. So, keeping trust, the level of trust, the effect of trust in a relationship and in an organization as part of your consideration is really important. And putting this into your boardroom, the board is going to be healthier. The board is going to be more stable when it's operating in a high trust environment, where the members of that board believe that the others have their best interest at heart. When there are activities in the boardroom that build trust as opposed to withdraw, small comments or actions or perceptions of disapproval, any of those things can be disruptive and hurt trust, whereas celebrating successes and working together to come up with good solutions and supporting each other and encouraging each other are all things that build trust in the boardroom. I just want to run through quickly some myths and some realities that we often hold around trust. Some believe that trust is soft, when actually trust is very quantifiable. It's measurable, both in effect, both the effect it has in speed and in cost. So low trust organizations, there's solid evidence and real data that shows the speed at which they're able to make decisions. The quality of the decisions that are made is much less than those that are high trust environment organizations. Some believe that trust is very slow, that it takes a long time to build trust. While nothing about trust is fast, the effect that a high trust organization experience is speed in decision making and speed in operational effectiveness. So it might be that trust takes a while to establish, but once it's there, the effect of that trust is an increase in speed in the organization. Trust is built solely on integrity, when actually it's a function of character and competence. So in other words, what we have to realize is that I can trust you to do something, but if you don't have the ability to do what it is that I'm trusting you to do, it doesn't matter how much trust I have, you're just not going to be able to see it through. Likewise, you can be highly competent, but if I don't have trust that you're going to do it because of a low character concern, I'm not going to trust you to do that. We can look at this, a simple example would be like an auto mechanic. If I know that you have the ability to fix my car, but I don't trust that you're going to operate in good character and that you're going to try to milk me for as much as you can get in every transaction. I'm not likely to go there regardless of how good you may be. Same, flip that coin. You might be a good mechanic, but if I trust your character and know that you're only going to repair those things that are necessary and you're going to inform me of those other things that are optional, and we're only going to move forward, in a high character way, I'm much more likely to do work with you than even if your competence might be a little bit lower, but you can be as honest and have as much integrity and character as you can. But if you don't know how to fix a car, you're not working on my car. Another myth is that you either have trust or you don't. And the truth is that trust can be created and it can be lost. We talked about deposits and withdrawals to a trust account. We have to realize that the decisions and the actions that we take every day, the way that we put our character on display does have an effect on increasing or decreasing the level of trust. It's not an all or nothing. It's not black and white. There are levels of trust, and we experience that in most of the relationships that we have. Another myth is that once trust is lost, it cannot be restored. And I mentioned this briefly. While it's difficult to restore, it can be, and often just takes intent and resolve to do those things necessary to reestablish that trust, and it can be restored. Another myth is that you can't teach trust, where in fact trust can be taught. It's what we're talking about today, understanding the impact, the effects, the tactics that can be applied to increase trust in an organization or in a relationship, as well as understanding those things that can pull away from or withdraw trust is part of that learning process. But teaching, learning about trust is really important, and it can be leveraged and help an organization actually have a strategic advantage because of the effect that it has on speed and cost in the organization. Some believe, I was actually, and still in some regards, in one of these people, trust is too risky. Sometimes it's too risky to trust somebody before you have enough information. When in reality, in most situations, not trusting is a greater risk. And you just look into an organization that's operating with low trust, which I'm sure we've all seen or experienced at some point in our career personally, or as we work with members or clients that have been in a low trust environment. The effect of trust is very risky and can create some really significant challenges for an organization. Another myth is that trust is established one person at a time, when in reality we can all be working together, and that you can establishing trust with one establishes trust with many, and that really goes into the circle of influence methodology, whereas if I trust you, then I trust the people that you're associated with and that you trust. There's an implied or implicit trust that's passed forward just because of the relationship that I have with you. So as I trust one, I naturally begin to trust many, and that works well in an organization. If you have a leader that operates with high character and high competence, I'm much more likely to trust the team that he's working with because of the character that he's demonstrating and the competence that he's showing. So as you think about trust in an organization, there are many factors that contribute to that, but I think, like I said, most of us have been associated with or have seen organizations that don't operate in a high trust environment. And for us, it's really recognizing those places with our members in our one-on-one relationships and in the boardroom, those places where we can be intentional in our actions to benefit trust as opposed to doing things that withdraw trust. And the truth, I think, is that we lose members when the trust account is bankrupt. It's not the only cause, but it is a cause. When members begin to lose trust that we're able to benefit them and their organization, that's when they make a decision to move forward. Now, there are other valid reasons for members to leave, but this is one factor that I think if we consider it and we look for ways that we can demonstrate high character and high competence, will help us to have more stable membership long term. So we're gonna revisit the speed of trust in the weeks ahead. We'll see how long it takes. Maybe just one, maybe 2 more weeks. But some of the other components of the speed of trust, there's a hidden variable that we'll talk about There are the 5 waves of trust, the 4 cores of credibility, and 13 behaviors that contribute to developing a high trust relationship or a high trust organization. One of the things that was most surprising to me, I guess, when I first was introduced to this concept was, this was a business concept and taught in a business environment. But what I learned really quickly is that what works well in business in this regard actually works really well in my personal life as well. So I was able to apply some of these cores of credibility and behaviors to really begin to be a more trustworthy person in the relationships that I had and in my professional life as well. And it has served me very, very well. So even if I don't take these concepts forward into my business, they're great to reflect on and think about in how I operate individually and those things that I can be doing to help myself be a higher character person and to demonstrate more credibility to those that I associate with personally and professionally. So that was a lot in a very brief period. I'd like to pause really quick. I'm curious if any of you have ever spent any time or have read the Speed of Trust book, if you've had any experience with this, or what your initial thoughts are as I've kind of run through this quickly. Has anybody, yeah, go ahead, John.
Just as an example, when I was at HP, early on at HP, they would do things if there was a contraction in the business. Instead of laying people off, they would have a voluntary participation of taking time off, like 10% of your time off or 10% of your pay going back to the company for whatever duration to get through a difficult time. And when I started with HP, they were in one of those cycles. And in the business unit I was in, 84% of the people participated voluntarily. Either give time, money, vacation back, and I think it was 3 years later, they were in another, 4 years later, they were in another contraction. They didn't even consider it because of so many changes that happened in trust in the company that they knew nobody would participate. So the erosion of trust over that time in the culture made that no longer a viable way to get through difficult times for them.
That's very interesting. So what do you think produced the erosion of trust that you referenced?
I think they became a lot more transactional in what they were doing. And they had a lot of things where they were just shifting a lot of the things that employees are used to from some of the flexibility and creativity standpoint that kind of, I think people felt like the values of the company were being eroded. And I think that was a big shift. That it was more good things are being said, but that's not really what got followed through on. I think there was some erosion of the culture because of that.
Yep. Interesting. I think that's a great example of how a high trust organization can operate and what happens when there are too many withdrawals and that trust does erode. Yep. Excellent. Thanks, John. Any other experiences or any thoughts around the speed of trust or how it may benefit you in your business or personally? Anybody?
Okay, so I haven't read the book. I get the concepts fully and try to exhibit that as much as practical, right? And I guess the question or the comment that came to mind while you were going through everything was kind of this, and maybe it's some things I've read recently and so on about where we are in our sales cycle, to board members. And I'll maybe use LinkedIn as an example, where we connect with these people, and then send messages around getting together to talk about our board, and almost going right into a sales pitch, or it could be, and maybe, I try to be very cautious of doing that, maybe because of this trust thing, because I think you can't, you haven't met these people yet. You've connected with them on LinkedIn, but you haven't really met them. And they haven't met you. So that trust really hasn't been established yet. You look at the two-step campaign, and hey, if you've ever been considered being part of a board, and I know there's controversy amongst TBOs all the time around people that think we're inviting them to join a corporate board or some other type of board.
Right.
And then a fee, in other words, they get paid rather than we pay them or they pay us. So anyway, and I'm just kind of throwing that out there because it's something I grapple with, I guess, as I, move forward in our business. I don't know, just random thought.
Yep, I understand.
Around the subject.
Yeah, and I think you bring up a great point, David, that even in our marketing activity, the messaging that we use as we're beginning to establish relationships with potential board members, demonstrating high character is a big part of establishing that trust early on, making sure that the messaging, making sure that we're being clear on, where we're headed and what the intent is. I don't think that, I don't personally think that, what I've seen in the messaging is misleading. I think it's open to interpretation. And I think that's true of a lot of marketing messages. But I think that's where, coming into it, with honesty and integrity and good character, and authenticity really help to establish that trust early. When you're setting up meetings, making sure that, you understand I'd like to hear more about you and your business, because we do. But I also want to tell you about what I do, because not only do I think it's beneficial for you, but I'm a business owner. I'm trying to build my business, and that's part of what I'm working through. So yeah, I understand what you're saying, and I've heard that same feedback that some of our messaging might be a little misleading. And I do know that we're working to address that and, see what other options there might be for how to word some of those things. I worked with Phil on the protocol scripts and things like that. We review those regularly for improvements and changes and new approaches. And the intent is we need to be very clear. We need to demonstrate good character in the way that we're presenting this information and moving prospects forward. We need to demonstrate value and credibility in who we are and our ability to be a value add for this business owner and to bring TAB and the value of TAB to them. But honestly, it comes down to the one-on-one relationship ultimately, and what when you're able to meet with them. How are you managing that relationship in that moment? Are you doing things to add trust? Are you demonstrating a sincere and genuine interest in the prospect? Or are you moving through the protocol?
Oh, did we lose him?
Nope, I'm still here. I just stopped talking, which is a rare thing, I admit.
Yeah, well, and I didn't mean to be, I wasn't trying to be, I kind of used the protocol wording because I use my own wording too. And
right.
Even as I use my own wording on things, I, kind of have that dilemma in mind. I mean, well, like you and I were speaking during the coaching, it would be so much easier if we had, I'll use Tanya as an example, an accounting business, right? I'm an accountant. I do taxes. It's very straightforward. You know what I'm going to want to be talking to you about. Our business is just so complex, relatively speaking. It's coaching, but it's not coaching.
Right.
It's a board of directors, but it's not a board of directors. It's this. Yeah.
Right.
So
yep.
Anyway, it's just a tough. tough, and at the same time, so you're building because of the business we do, we need to be building this relationship, but at the same time we're building a relationship. The ultimate objective is for them to become a customer,
Right.
And for us to be their trusted advisor. Yeah.
Yep.
So.
And that key right there, that was what actually motivated me to introduce this subject was, as we're thinking about the 4 disciplines of engagement, becoming a trusted advisor is one of the 4. And how do we do that? And sometimes we feel like, I think it's one of the myths that we touched on, that we feel like it's a soft thing, and it's not necessarily something that I can work on. It's just something that happens, and sometimes you click with somebody and sometimes you don't. And there's truth to that to some degree, but I think we can have a strategy on what I can do, what action can I take to increase the level of trust that I have in this relationship with this member. And if I do these things consistently and I'm making withdrawals into that or making deposits into that trust account on a regular basis, then I know that I'm having a strong, healthy relationship with that member. Whereas if I'm not intentional and I'm just kind of going through the process and I'm hoping for the best, I could hit or I could miss. I think it's better to have strategy than to not have strategy. I think it's better to be intentional than to not be intentional. And so that's kind of where this came from. And I think I don't share this information to project that anybody needs to do anything different. I present it as a way of you all being able to see a new concept. And, is there anything from this that I might be able to put into my business or into my practice to help me be more effective in the way that I move forward? So keep that in mind as we go through. This is just something that might be a benefit, and there might be a couple of things that you latch onto that you think, yeah, that's something I could really work on. Maybe not. Maybe you're already doing most of these things well. I suspect that most of you, if not all of you, are doing many of these things already without even necessarily understanding the system of the speed of trust. It's just part of the character and credibility that you have as a TAB business owner and as a person. So it's not necessarily new information, but just a new way to look at it and see if there's something that you can work on here. So we'll continue to dig into this in the next week or two. And like I said, hopefully there's something here that will benefit you in your TAB business. All right. I apologize for sending this out late, but we do have a round robin discussion statement that I'd love to hear each of you complete. As we're getting into the last couple of months of the calendar year, not only do we, but our members begin to be more reflective over what has happened over the past year. This is a great time for us and for our members to look back and see the successes that we've had, to recognize the challenges that are still ahead, but to see the progress that we've made overall. So as you think back and prepare to close out 2018, I'm curious what each of you would say you must do before the end of the year to help 2018 become the most, to have the most positive end that you can work towards. So if you would, we'll go around the room and just complete the statement. As I prepare to close out 2018, I must do what before the end of the year? And we'll kind of go in reverse order of how we did the intros. So we'll start with David.
Oh, great. Man.
So the lesson here, David, is don't be first on the call and don't be last on the call.
I want to be middle of the pack, yeah.
That's right.
Great. Yeah, so just, make sure I provide total value to my current board members for them to be prepared for 2019.
Mm-hmm.
So that's probably like, one. And two then is to be on my way to establishing my second board through member acquisition. So that, implies I've got somewhere between, I've got one board with 6 people on it right now. So that implies I'm going to have somewhere between 2 and 3 to 5 new members, either in the pipeline or at the table. So there you go. That's
awesome. That sounds good. I think those are 2 very good focal areas. How about you, John?
I think probably number 1 is just to reset a lot of things on my time management and where I'm spending my time and kind of switching between tasks. And I've been so focused on customer acquisition that I have to be spending more time on just developing stuff ahead of time for the board. And proactively thinking it's like, I got to do this in a month or 3 weeks for them, so I need to start thinking about it earlier, that sort of thing.
Excellent. Anything else?
No, I think it's time management and proactive thinking about what the board's going to need coming up. That's probably my 2 biggest things I want to get reset before the end of the year.
Sounds good. Excellent. Another great area of focus. How about you, Tanya?
So for me, the critical factor is getting this board launched. So a lot of things hinge on whether this board comes together by the end of the year or not.
Yep, absolutely. Yep.
The end.
Very good. And last but not least, how about you, Rick?
Yeah, what I've got is sign up 4 to 6 more members and build more consistency in marketing and sales activities, as well as determining ways to bring even more value to each of my current members. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
That was a Phil comment, wasn't it? Does that make sense? Does that make sense? Make sense? No.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate that. And again, one of the reasons that I like to have these round robin statements is just to help us hear some of the commonality in what we're working toward, and to be able to relate to what other TAB business owners are focused on in their business. I think oftentimes, much like with our members, business ownership can feel very lonely, and you feel like you're the only one going through certain things or experiencing certain things or having certain challenges, and just recognizing that each of us have challenges in our business that we're working to overcome. Some are similar, some are a little different, but we all are working toward the same goal of building a very stable, successful, strong, healthy TAB business. So I would encourage you to write down what you just said somewhere so that you can keep it at the forefront of your mind. Make sure that it is something that you revisit regularly, because we know that we can have goals, but goals that aren't written down are just dreams, and dreams may or may not happen. So let's be more intentional about it. Write out what our goals would be. Be as specific as you can be. Make sure that you know when you'll get there, and if you'd like, I'd be happy to have you share those with me, and we can make that part of the coaching that we do over the next several weeks. So thanks everybody for sharing, and for your transparency and being willing to let your other peers know, what your challenges and what your focus is as you move forward in 2018 to build for a really healthy 2019. All right, we're kind of right at the top of the hour. So, any final comments or statements before we wrap out the call? Excellent. Well, thanks everybody again for taking time out of your hectic schedules to participate. If you do talk to others in the program over the next week or so, please encourage them to attend these calls. I think we all benefit with more on the call. I think it makes the call much more effective, and we learn more when there are more people involved. So encourage one another to be involved and keep moving forward. I appreciate your time and your comments and the value that you brought to this call for me. And I hope you all have a great Thursday afternoon. There will be a sprint call that starts at 3 p.m. Eastern if any of you are available for that. And, of course, the membership acquisition call tomorrow morning at noon Eastern. With that, have a great Thursday. Finish the week strong and have a very prosperous week ahead.
Thanks, Ben.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.